Welcome, Pitzer families. Many thanks for your joining us this weekend via this virtual platform, and especially for the session on Sagehens Athletics Here and Now. I'm a parent volunteer at Pitzer, and my name is Linda Kwan. I'm on the Family Leadership Council, and I chair the events and volunteer committee. My daughter Madison is a senior and has had the privilege of playing 4 years as a Sagehens athlete. I'm beyond excited and truly honored to introduce you to our esteemed athletic director of Pomona-Pitzer Athletics and chair of Pomona's Physical Education Department. Please welcome Dr. Miriam Merrill, who joined us in the summer of 2020, correct? Following an extensive search and a competitive candidate selection process. She said yes. Dr. Merrill oversees the unique joint athletics department activities from the varsity to the intramural and club classes, fitness and wellness program, recreational, and of course, academic offerings. Bringing her wealth of experience, leadership, and mentoring, Dr. Merrill hailed from Hamilton College in New York, where she served as the associate director, including a significant quarter as interim director. She has served as athletic director at a community college in Chicago and was a former head track and field coach at Robert Morris University. She was a communication major and a Division I All-American track and field superstar for the University of Cincinnati. Dr. Merrill was inducted to its Hall of Fame in 2012. She earned a Master's of Education and Sports Administration at Xavier University and followed that up with a doctorate in Psychology and Human Movement from Temple University in 2019. One of her many, many strengths of Dr. Merrill has been her work on student wellness and the opportunities to instill diversity, particularly for women and people of color. We have so much to be grateful for with the return of our established competitive sports this year and the continued challenges of ensuring our student athletes' safety. Thank you, Dr. Merrill, for your guidance and navigation of this challenging transition with your valuable team, along with managing the construction and everyone's anticipating the reopening of Rain Center come fall. And of course, the continuing fundraising efforts that we all will be participating on. We sure are all excited to learn what is next. Would you please all join me in welcoming Dr. Miriam Merrill.
Thank you so much, Linda. And thank you all for spending your time with me, for some time with me this afternoon. I know there's many things that you could be doing, so I appreciate you joining me. So what I'll do is I'll go through a quick presentation and want to give some time for folks to ask questions or talk through whatever it is you'd like. Want this to be a really good session for you to pull away some information that could be helpful for you moving forward. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So first, I just want to talk through the agenda. So I'll talk about competition, kind of where we're at athletically. So I'll talk mainly about fall because that's kind of done. I'll touch a little bit upon winter because we're right in the middle of the, well, I should say right at the end of the regular season and moving into championship season. And then I'll talk about academics because that is also very important and what our student athletes do. And then lastly, a building update and a couple other updates going on in our department as well. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about our 3 core values. So we spent time all last year with an outside firm that interviewed our student athletes, our department, faculty outside of our department, both campuses, students, and really wanted to understand what Sagehens athletics meant to them. And so what rose to the top is these kind of 3 core values. So the first one is holistic development. And holistic development is really making sure that we develop our students outside of their athletic spaces. Yes, it is critical that our coaches are teaching them the sport and helping them develop and helping them get stronger. But what's even more important is that when they leave us, they've had a really great experience and then are prepared to do all of these other things whenever they leave here. So it's the social development, mental development, as well as physical. So all of those things to make sure that we are touching base with our student athletes while they're here. The second one is community, right? So when I talk to our students about that, I always say it's more than just us as individuals, but us as a collective group, right? And so that might mean that we hold somebody up whenever they're struggling, or we hold somebody accountable when they need to be held accountable, but ultimately is about us contributing to the greater good of the group, right? So pulling us from just thinking about ourselves, I, but it's about we collectively. And then lastly, excellence. So I am super competitive, right? So it is really important that I provide resources that our coaches can be at a place where they can support our student athletes at a way and allow us to be excellent. And we certainly have been excellent in the past couple of years, and we continue to be excellent. But as I say to students, right, thank you, be excellent on your in your athletic spaces, but also be excellent in the classroom. And we'll talk a little bit about how we're doing that as well. So I wanted to talk about that because the core values certainly bleeds in everything that we do. I talk about it a lot. And ultimately, if it doesn't feed into a core value, then it just doesn't make sense for us to do or believe. So wanted to talk through that. So the next thing, everything is a game to me, of course. So if you have a cell phone, I'm going to ask you to pull it out. So you're going to text to this number, 37607. In the message part, you're going to type my name without one L, so just one L, and 201. So no spaces, but all one word. Okay. So the number again is 37607. And the message you're going to send is Miriam Merrill, 1L, 201. I'll give you just a few minutes to get in. And if you are in, if you could use your kind of button and give me a thumbs up button, or you can actually give me a thumbs up. So let me know you're in. Okay, perfect. That means it's working. Okay, so I've now activated it, so you should be in. Everybody's in? Okay. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again so that we can play a quick game. So I don't expect everybody to get these right. It's just a fun way for us to talk about the success we're having with our fall seasons. Okay. All right, so everybody can see what fruit would you use to describe your day? Can everyone see that? Can you see that screen? Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is text what fruit would you use to describe your day? And this is just to make sure we all kind of know what we're doing here. So you're going to type a fruit that you would use to describe your day. I asked my class this the other day, and one student said a rotten banana. And I was like, oh no, let's talk about that. Awesome, so we've got star fruit, oh, that's great. Apple, grapefruit, so maybe a little bit of sour, but good. Lemon, maybe a little tart, but small. And I'll wait maybe 30 more seconds for another response. Okay, we got another one. Strawberry, awesome. Good. Okay, so let's go to our next question. So that was a practice question. So the first one is, how many fall sports teams won the SCIAC regular season and SCIAC tournament? So how many fall sports teams won the regular season and the SCIAC tournament? So you'll type A if you think it's just one, B. So we've got some folks who think it's 4, 3. All right, I'll give you 5 more seconds. All right, the answer to this one is actually 2. So women's soccer won the regular season and the tournament, and water polo, men's water polo won the regular season. Awesome. All right, so let's try the next one. Which coaching staffs were named coaching staff of the year? So these are all in the fall. Which coaching staffs were named coaching staff of the year? So you can type out, you can use somebody's answer if you want to. I'll give you a clue, there are 4 of them. 4 of them. Yep, so we've got women's soccer here. Someone who doesn't know. Love the emojis. Soccer, yep, women's soccer. Cross country. Men's cross country, yep. So we're missing water polo, yep, we're missing one more. Not track and field, that's a winter sport, close. Swim, nah, they're not done yet. So we might have coaching staff of the year. But just to let you know, that fourth one was actually volleyball. So volleyball finished second place this year, which is the highest finish they'd ever had. And they were named coaching staff of the year as well. So we've got women's soccer, volleyball, men's cross country, and men's water polo. So job well done, everybody. All right, let's try our next question. So how many All-Americans were named in the fall? Was it 7? Was it 15? Was it 18? Or was it 2? And just for those of you who may not know what an All-American means, it means that you are the top athlete in that sport across the country in your division, right? So oftentimes it's the top 1 or 2 people in a certain position, or it's the top 8 in individual sports like track and field and swimming. So it's a pretty high honor. All right, and most of you got it right, it is 15. Yes, we had 15 All-Americans named in the fall, with water polo taking the highest number. All right, I believe this is our last one. So which teams won a national championship this fall? So there's 2 of them. Which teams won a national championship this fall? Cross country, yes. Who's gonna be the next one? Soccer, no, they did not win a national championship, though we played in the NCAA tournament. Yes, water polo, awesome. Yep, so good stuff. So in case you all didn't know, the more people that answered, the larger the word is. So water polo, you all got that one. And of course, cross country. So, all right, so that is a little bit about, go back to my screen here. Okay. So yes, so that was a little bit about how we did athletically. Some other things to note is we had quite a few players of the year. So men's soccer had newcomer of the year, which is given to the first year. We had an offensive and defensive player of the year for women's soccer, a defensive player of the year for volleyball, an offensive player of the year for men's water polo. So we had a lot of folks who were doing really well individually within the conference too. What I want to talk to really quickly about winter sports. So swim and dive is actually in their last day of the SCIAC championships. It's a tight one, so I'm not sure if we'll end up winning, but on the women's side, it is very likely that we could win a SCIAC championship. The men, it's pretty close as well. And then currently, we're getting ready to have our senior night for men's and women's basketball, and both teams are sitting second in conference right now. And these are some big games, so if anybody is in town, feel free to join us over at Roberts Pavilion for senior night at 5 and then at 7. So, okay. So let's talk about our academic updates. So as we talked about, we had some athletic All-Americans, but we've also had some academic All-Americans, and those are student athletes that have top GPAs within their sport and ranking high across the country. One of the 2 things that I wanted to make sure that I highlighted is, our men's and women's swim and diving program. So on the men's side, they have the highest GPA in NCAA. So that's above Harvard, Williams, Bowdoin, or like any other elite institution that shares a similar profile as ours, which is a huge accomplishment. And then on the women's side, they have the 7th highest GPA in the NCAA. And then in Division III, our women's team has the 3rd highest in Division III. So student athletes are really getting it done in the classroom, which is one of the things that I am so proud of, and wanted to make sure that I shared that with you all today. So building updates. So this is the fun stuff. So I'm going to kind of run through some slides for you all. Let me get to them and talk through our special areas. It's actually really nice. So if you can either raise your hand or give me a thumbs up, have you actually seen the building lately? Has anybody seen the building lately? Yeah. Good. Yeah, so the walls are up. We're now putting drywall in, which is super exciting. Sorry, I'm trying to get to my slides here. It is really becoming a building, right? Kind of before it was like, oh yeah, construction, right? A whole, but now it is physically a building that is super exciting. So, oh, where'd my slides go? All right, everybody, hang on with me, hang in there. You got to have at least one time where something happens, right? During a Zoom. So, okay, so let's get to Here we go. Just waiting for this document to open. All right, and as we wait for this to open, if you all feel free to kind of drop any questions in there. Where would this open? All right, well, I can't seem to get the large slide deck open. It was open before we started. However, what I'm going to do is show you some really fun spaces here. So it's just 4 different spaces that I'll show you. Okay. All right, so the first one is our Athletic Performance Center. So this is where, so we have 2 separate spaces. One, and one of the things, let me just kind of back up. One of the things about our facility that we knew we were missing was space and opportunity for fitness, right? So it was just crowded. There just wasn't a lot of fitness equipment as it relates to like bikes and cardio machines and things like that. So our new space is going to provide a lot of space for all of that equipment to exist. So there's 2 different spaces. One is kind of where the fitness equipment is, and there's another space where our student athletes will access. And all of our other students do have access to the space, but it's likely because a lot of Olympic lifting will happen in here that it's going to be a lot of our student athletes that generally use this space. So this is our fitness center. One super exciting about this piece about this space is that there is a turf strip so that they can do cuts and warm up and all of that on an actual piece of turf, which will be really great for our athletes that also are outdoor athletes. So this is kind of our focus wall in our gym. So for those of you who may remember, we had a big gym and then there was a big kind of divider and then there was more space behind that. So that space is now gone away because it's going to be our athletic performance center. And then we have this new gym that's going to have a brand new floor. It's going to have this accent wall, which I thought was a pretty cool graphic for us to have. The lights are going to be LED, so it'll be a lot brighter in there. The floor is new, so it'll be stained, kind of up to date with a lot of our other colleagues or institutions have kind of those dually stained floors, so it'll have that. And it'll just be a really great space to be in. So here's another aspect of that. And then we have all of our accolades on one side of the wall, and then again, our accent wall on the other side. So yeah, so those are just a few of our spaces. As I said, the slide deck that I had is not opening up. But anything else that I can talk about specifically about the spaces, the classrooms. So that was another thing, is we were cramming our largest team, which is men's football, into this room that was like this big. So we now have plenty of space in classrooms so that, you know, coaches don't have to pile on top of each other or have to fight for a space to have a room. And then our locker rooms are really great. So they're gonna have these really nice wooden lockers where students can, you know, hang things. There's gonna be a top piece where they can store things, which will elevate our locker rooms in a way that we haven't had before. Our spaces for students and for faculty as well are really great spaces too. So they'll have a really nice locker room where they can hold their stuff. And even for those who don't want to go to a locker room, they can have lockers that will be outside that they can access. But super excited for the spaces. And maybe I'll try to send out the slide deck so that you can include it with everything else since you didn't have a chance to see it today. All right, so that is our building update. So let me take us to our last slide. Which is Title IX. So my last update. So for those of you who may know, it is or may not know, this year is the 50th anniversary of Title IX. So what we know is that Title IX was largely influential for women's participation in athletics and an equitable participation in athletics. So we are really spending all this year to celebrate. So a couple of things that we're doing. One is we have a docu-series. So we are interviewing alums who have come through to talk about their experience back in the day. And so those have been released. We'll actually have a section on the website that should go live next week where you can access all of that. We also are collecting videos. So alums can send back in videos that say, what Title IX meant to them. I know for me, as a student athlete at the University of Cincinnati, Title IX, I didn't realize just the benefit and the ways in which it benefited me until I was done. So Cincinnati added track and field in 95, I believe. And so I was started in 97. So that really gave me an opportunity to participate in track and field at Cincinnati. So it's been largely influential for a lot of folks, and we want to make sure that we're spending some time to celebrate all year. The last thing is the October 15th. So we're doing a celebration where we'll invite all of our alumni back to come share their stories. We're going to have a panel of folks who talk about their experience, so the old and the new, along with a dinner to celebrate. So information will be coming out, a save the date will be coming out to our student athletes, or to our student athlete alumni, as well as those who are connected to our departments throughout the Title IX. One story I got to hear was about a men's soccer player who, I believe in the early 80s, coached one of the women's soccer teams that was a club team that eventually became became a varsity sport. So I think engaging men as well in the conversation is always going to be critical as well. So with all of that information, I want to go ahead and open it up now to any questions that you all might have.
Looks like you might have a few in the chat box as well.
Okay. All right. So when will the new facility be open? Great question. We are hoping in the fall of 22. And it will be fall of 22. It's just, will it be August? Will it be September? Will it be October? So yeah, it'll definitely be in the fall. So even if it's not before students come back, it'll be shortly thereafter, which we're super excited about. We were able to kind of get started early during the pandemic, which allowed minimal disruption to students who live in the area. They don't have to hear of construction or whatever. So we were able to move through a lot of that while students weren't here, and we're still tracking on time. So do you have any news about the 5C climbing team? So why don't you, so news in what regard? Updates of how they're doing, or just in general? Are they, Michael, if you're able to give me a little bit more context as to what you're looking for. Okay, well, I'll let you chime in when you get a second. But yeah, so we do have programs that are, let's see. Oh, just in general. So yeah, so I don't have anything specific about the climbing team in general, but what I do know is that our club teams are up and running. So just as our athletics, we kind of had to take some precautions in the very beginning with COVID. And so some of them were a little slow to get started. But yeah, we are now up and running as of the end of actually this week. So they've been practicing for the past couple of weeks, but now are back competing, which is good. Is there a college, will we start a fencing team? So perhaps, right? I think what it takes is somebody who's interested, a group of students who are interested. And then we talk about need and how it can become a club. And then eventually that's how teams get moved into kind of the varsity space. But yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
If that's okay. I'm Suzanne. Just kind of a curiosity regarding the professors and athletes. I know my daughter plays tennis, and she's really good about doing things in advance and asking for everything in advance. But I guess what's the messaging with the professors? Not asking that athletes should get preferential treatment, but just their willingness to, provide. Like my daughter will be a go-getter and getting this stuff done ahead of time. But I guess I'm just curious if there's any punitive issues because they go out, they travel.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
It does, it does. And so what I will say is, generally speaking, professors are very flexible, right? You may have a professor that says, hey, you're missing a big project, so
yeah,
these are the options you have, right? Student athletes being penalized happens very few and far between, but I would be lying if I said it never happened, right? However, so my philosophy is this. So each team has a faculty affiliate. And so that is a faculty member outside of our department that's there to help them troubleshoot, right? So let's say they were to get into a situation where a faculty member said, you need to either be in my class or you'll get a 0, right? Then there's a conversation that can be had. And then ultimately, it's a decision for the student athlete to make. So in the past, what I've done is I have driven a student who had to go to a particular place to do a project with a class and driven them to a competition in another state, right? So I'm willing to do that to make sure that things happen. But ultimately, we are in the business of human development. So students need to weigh their options. Is it best for a student to say, I'm just going to go to class, I'll meet you all at the next game? Or is it best for a student to say, hey, I've done really well in this class, I might be able to take this hit, right? So that's what we're here to help students support. But what I will say is largely our faculty are super supportive.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that question. All right, Sherry, yeah, so the Title IX shout out.
Yep. I have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with so much of, the practices, the games, so many things happen on the Pomona campuses. I know that a lot of the Pitzer athletes, they don't want to complain. They don't want to be difficult. They understand the reality. They selected to play for Pomona-Pitzer, but it does add a whole other level of complexity to their lives, and sometimes makes them just feel like, gee, does anyone ever consider this? Like, why can't anything ever occur on the Pitzer campus? Why can't we have more team dinners here? What about an occasional practice? Just something. And I just didn't know, my daughter's going to be graduating. So I'm really asking this on behalf of all kind of future Pitzer athletes. Like, what can be done to just give a little bit more balance and maybe a little bit more support? Because 15 minutes to get there, 15 minutes back, when you're already doing a 3-hour practice and a lift, you might have labs. If you're it's a busy life.
Sure, absolutely.
So just would love your thoughts on that, and if you've raised this issue and what your success rate has been, et cetera.
Yes, so thanks for raising that question, because it is something that I'm always thinking about, right? Is how we make sure that we have a presence on Pitzer's campus, because we are Pomona-Pitzer Athletics, and making sure that we are still visible and supporting our students. So one thing that I will say is, with athletic spaces, it's difficult, right? Because all of the spaces, training is on Pomona's campus. However, this last semester, when campus dining was only in you could only go to your home campus, I allowed coaches to pay for a meal so that students could get together. And so what I said to them is, this is the great opportunity for you to hold meals on Pitzer's campus, right? So you have Jimmy John's that's brought in and you all eat outside. What I'll also say is, we have department meetings every other month. We rotate from Pitzer's campus to Pomona's campus. So we're not always just on our campus. So our students get to see us walking around when it's not sport time, right? And then I'll also say the partnerships that we have developed are really intentional. So rivalry weekend. So the game was at CMS this year, but we hosted the rivalry tailgate on Pitzer's campus, right? So every year we'll rotate back and forth. But I think, to your point, Sherry, it is very important for us to make sure that our Pitzer student athletes don't feel like we're not really involved, right? So it is important for me to have a really, really critical presence. And I'll also say that my involvement with student affairs, so I am seen as the management team with them, allows me to make sure that our athletics is always a piece of the conversation on Pitzer's campus. So yeah, so thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, it's just been hard, even dinners, I didn't know, could we ever consider a shuttle? Just, a small little shuttle. It's but I don't know. I just think that going forward, really sort of challenging what has been done in the past.
Sure.
And really pushing that envelope would benefit the Pitzer students.
Yeah, absolutely. And we definitely tried, and we will continue.
So
absolutely.
Thank you.
I want to comment on.
All right, so I see a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Did somebody have a comment?
Dr. Merrill, I want to comment on the reopening of the dining halls. I think it was very important for the teams to still have that camaraderie between the Pomona athletes and the Pitzer athletes, that they can go to the dining hall. So I want to say thank you for pushing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said,
big.
when we couldn't do it, right, I still was like, okay, You can't do every meal, right? Because I don't have enough funding to do that. However, I can do at least once a week so that your teams can get together, because I know how critical that is. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So there's a question about fencing, requires expensive equipment. So I think the first start is to have your student athletes come visit Dom Wilkins, who's our new director of intramural and club sports. So that would be the first start. What other questions? But what I will say is it's super exciting to be able to see people compete. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. I joined late, so maybe you answered this, but are families now allowed on campus as spectators?
Families are now allowed on campus. Yes, just make sure you bring your vaccination card. We're good to go. Yep. And we were in masks for a while, but outdoors, we're no longer in masks, but indoors we still are. So
Okay.
Look forward to seeing you.
Great.
Yep. Anything else? My Pitzer colleagues, anything that you can think of?
Yeah, I have a quick question, and this is a little bit on behalf of our FLC group. Our family community, is there anything that parents or parent volunteers in particular can do to better support you and your team and our student athletes?
Yeah, that's a great.
Especially as we start opening back up and hoping to have some, great tailgates and events that we can probably produce. So I just wanted to hear from you what would be the most helpful from this group.
Yeah, I think exactly that, being present, right? Our students, one of the things we try to capture at the end of a student's experience is what was it like, right? And what they generally talk about is the student athlete experience. And a lot of that means having people in the stands, having family around, right? So seeing you all, and even those who can't make it here, right? Joining us through our streaming link.
Yeah.
Our sports athletics communication department has done a phenomenal job of elevating we have instant replay now. Like, it's almost kind of like watching some professional sports. So I think just being around to support is always great. And love to see you all when you can make it out. And even if you can't, I know that you all are super supportive of what we're doing here. So continue to remain engaged. And some of these kind of other programs that we have, get involved in that as well. So we'd love to see you at Title IX, even if you didn't graduate from Pomona or Pitzer. But it's something really great that we're celebrating. So staying connected, I think, is also great.
It's fantastic.
Are parents allowed to that Title IX event?
You said, will you be allowed?
Yes, are parents and caregivers allowed?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So has a date actually been set for that?
Yes, October 15th.
October 15th.
Yeah.
Next year.
The actual date is June 22nd, I
Right.
believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
June 23rd. I just actually.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
So,
Yep, we'd love to see you back. Oh, one thing I forgot to add is we have Dr. Lavoie coming on campus April. Oh gosh, I'll have to get this date to you all because I don't want to pull it off the top of my head. But she is coming, and Dr. Lavoie is kind of the leading researcher around gender equity, Title IX. She's out of University of Minnesota and is phenomenal. So we have a chance to have her come talk. So if you all are on campus around that time, feel free to come on over and join us on that Title IX celebration as well. So I'll make sure that I get that information.
sorry, I thought of keep coming up with things.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this came up like going back 2 years ago. Not for me, but I remember on my daughter's lacrosse team, there were a couple of young the women, one or two had concussions, someone else had hurt their leg, and everyone, we were all on a Slack channel and everyone was communicating. But the big question at that point is, where are the local doctors? Who do you see? Who's like the neurologist that Pitzer could recommend, or who's the orthopedist that Pitzer has vetted that's local? I don't know if that is something that's kind of ever gotten legs, but I know that there's been a need for that in the past. I don't know if that's kind of on your radar or if something like that already exists.
It does exist. So I guess my question as to why maybe your student didn't know that is.
Yeah, it was the parents. I don't know if my student knew, but I mean, it It was the parents who,
Okay.
and I think it was also access to get in, like being a Pomona-Pitzer student was of no advantage, well, I mean, and you can't compare D3 to D1, but I mean, you have, you're injured at Stanford and you get bumped up to the list of their top 15,
Well,
doctors.
Let me walk you through the process, because maybe that will be helpful. So if a student athlete is injured, there's an athletic trainer that's there, right? So an athletic trainer will give an initial assessment and say, this is what I recommend. So we have a group of team physicians in the area who
Great.
will bump you up because we have those relationships. So anyone who is having a hard time, normally it's because a student hasn't followed kind of our suggestions, or the family has said, nah, we want to go to our own folks, right?
Okay.
That can always happen. But yes, we have a team of physicians that can bump us up for MRIs or any type of athletically related injured consultation. And I've even gotten bumped up before. So I do know that works. So making sure that our athletic trainers kind of give that information to student athletes, because no one should be lost or not know what they should be doing next.
Right. And again, I don't know if you want to involve families in this, but again, when it comes to healthcare, a lot of families are still like engaged in that. And so making that known, I don't know how to do it, but just educating families on that, because that has come up in the past. So wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, great questions.
Gym used to be accessible to, I want to say, the community. Is that going forward when it opens?
I'm sorry, what was the first part of the question?
I believe the gym before used to be accessible by the community, either by membership or certain slotted hours just for outsiders. Is that still going forward when that reopens?
Yeah, so for our community, Pomona-Pitzer community, right, student athlete, faculty, staff, yep, you can access it whenever. And then, we'll have drop-in passes, day of passes, family passes, stuff like that for folks who want to use. Yep, it'll be a really great place. So come along.
Long overdue.
Yeah. So Amanda said that parents also share local doctor and other recommendations on the Facebook group. Okay. Yeah, I think what's tough is when those local doctors aren't within our partnership, but certainly want to make sure that you all are communicated from the student athlete to you. So we do have some challenges with FERPA, right? Being able to kind of access all of that, but as long as the student athlete says, yep, my mom or father wants to know, we can loop you in.
Great.
Yes, they are. They are. So Coach Greg and Coach Bailey, they are really great, really great. And both are alums, which is even better.
Yep. No, we hear about Coach Greg all the time. And for those of you who don't know, I believe Coach Greg's mom was on the family leadership council going back, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago. So,
Sure.
But common name in our household.
That's awesome. I will definitely let him know that. He'll be probably a little
Yep,
embarrassed,
thank
but
you.
excited. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if there is nothing else, I do want to again thank you all for your time this afternoon. Really appreciate it. And I am an open door if you have questions. The only thing I do want to make sure I tell is I don't talk playing time, right? I am not at practice every day, so I can't determine that. But if you've got questions about anything else, please don't hesitate to reach out. Okay. All
I
right.
have a comment
Thank
about
you.
playing time.
Sure.
I have a comment about that.
Sure.
At the high school level, we all had superstars. Now we're at the collegiate level, everybody's a superstar. So I think it's to remain having that trust with your coaches.
Sure. Yeah, but I tell students is I can't tell you where you should be playing, but I can help you have the conversation with your coach. So I will always do that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Enjoy your Saturdays. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Of course.